Everybody, I'm Tony Hall. I've met most of you and all of you. We've had 85 people reply to come to Captain's Table today, but various things are going on. But it's really good that we're getting back to face-to-face, and we'll keep building. We are going to record today's session so that the people that didn't make it will still hopefully get the benefit of watching what we cover today. And Captain's Table, for those of you that know, is our monthly recruitment leaders forum. We try and cover cutting edge issues that are really useful for business owners and senior leaders. And it's very kindly supported by William Buck, who are our normal host down in Melbourne, but we're very grateful to Slade Group for hosting while William Buck renovate down in Melbourne. And we've got Angela and her team in Brisbane that are hosting in Brisbane. You can see the Brisbane group there. Welcome to you all in Brisbane and Melbourne. And also thank you to Job Out of here, who have over the years been really kind in supporting us at Captain's Table and providing this great meeting room here. So we also have representatives from A Positive, who are great supporters, and Ayers Group, who are now rebranding, or Ayers Group name is staying the same. To People 2.0. Ayers Group name gone. All right, I'll need a new logo from you when you get a moment, which is really good. We've got Michael Yarrow at Digit Pro, also a great supporter. And A Positive, I've mentioned. Job Out at William Buck. Have I mentioned everybody? Yes. So thank you all very much for being here. And it is my great pleasure to pass over to our regular annual guest presenters, Jason and James. Both own recruitment companies, one in tech, one in legal. And what's so good about their presentation is it's very humorous. They update it every year, and they're actually using this tech. They're both into tech. The funniest thing I heard was Jason saying to James is that James wants to automate himself completely, so he never has to even show up to work. That's how keen he is on automation. And these guys they're at industry events and conferences around the world looking at the latest. And every year they very kindly offer their time to share what they've learned about recruitment tech with us. So Jason and James, thank you very much for being here. Welcome everybody, and over to you.
Thanks, Tony. I feel like I should be doing karaoke or something. Any requests out there? I did see Sting last week. Gosh, he was fantastic. 71 years old, still got it. So I just want to preface this with a couple of remarks. One is I'm not a techie. I'm a lawyer by trade. I do enjoy playing around with the tech. I'm probably a little bit dangerous because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm 50, so I'm hardly a digital native like James, where it's very intuitive. But I do like to play around with things and see where there's an application to either help me find people I couldn't otherwise have found, to make life a little bit easier, to have better systems and procedures. And these are there are plenty of tools out there. I mean, we could actually do a week-long seminar with all of them and still not cover it. So these are just a few handy ones that we use. And I really don't want this to be death by PowerPoint. So if anyone has any comments, queries, you've tried it, you've liked it, you haven't liked it, let's make it an open forum where we can share. I'm sure Tony might be able to monitor what the people in Melbourne and Brisbane are saying as well, so we can make it at least an East Coast presentation. So let's kick off. Or not. The best thing about tech presentations is when the tech doesn't work. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room. If anyone has been living under a rock, you wouldn't have heard of ChatGPT. Now, I saw a great slide the other day, and I don't remember all the stats, but it was like the time to reach 1 million users. And it was like Netflix, 3 years, Facebook, 10 months, Instagram, 4 weeks, and ChatGPT was 10 days. So this thing has gone crazy. Now, if you haven't played around with it, please do. It was down last night. Yeah. Okay. It's been down a lot in the US in particular. And what they've done is, because of the demand, they've now got a subscription model. So try to grab it while it's still free. So next slide, James. Well, what do you use it for? I mean, there's so many use cases. Here's a few things that I've tried it with. So lazy client, can't be asked to send me a job description. I get ChatGPT to do it. Okay. It's not going to do everything perfectly, but it's a lot better starting point for me, and it'll probably save me 3/4 of the time, and I'll tweak it and I'll add specifics, but it's a great way to get a first draft. Ads as well, very easily. So I can have a draft job description and say, using this job description, create an ad, and ChatGPT will probably get me, 3/4 of the way there as well. And the best thing about it is it learns as it goes. So I recruit lawyers, and I got it to do a native title lawyer ad for me the other day. And I said, can you make it a bit more formal? And it redrafted again, and it quoted the legislation, and it gave me a much better version. And then you could say, can you make this a little bit more nuanced in this? So you can actually have a discussion with the bot where it improves itself as it goes. Creating graphics. So I wrote a blog recently, and I just wanted a picture on it, and I couldn't be asked going to like deposit photos. So I went to an AI and I said, can you do me a picture of a lawyer? And they're all these very vanilla generic photos. And I was like, nah, how about do me a picture of a lawyer in the style of Picasso? And then it gave me 20 blokes. And I was like, okay, it's a bit gender biased. Give me a picture of a female lawyer in the style of Picasso. And it gave me 15 of them. And if you hung them on any art gallery wall, people wouldn't realize. They were just really, really clever. So you can play around with things like that as well. Preparing interview questions. So you could say, I'm interviewing for an X or a Y. Give me a series of questions that I should ask, and the chat will prepare those for you. And the one I love is for Boolean search strings. So if you're trying to find someone, you can, instead of, if you're not an expert in Boolean, you can just put it in English and it understands it enough to be able to create a nice search string for you. And finally, outreach copy. So people have what they call LinkedIn fatigue. Anyone that puts open to new opportunities is likely to get bombarded by emails from recruiters. So how can you reach out to people a little bit better? You can get ChatGPT to help you draft that, whether it's through email, LinkedIn, or any other reach out method. Next one. I can't remember it, but if you just put graphics.
Hang on. So the question was, what AI does Jason use for the creating the graphics? And he didn't know.
It's not ChatGPT, but there are lots of other ones. Thanks, Graham.
Yeah, so DALL.E is the URL for that one. So Jason's just talked a lot about Chat GPT in terms of creative copy and using it for a creative mind. Some of the other things that you can use it for, we use something called Zapier, which we'll talk about in a bit. But the creating automations can be quite complex, so you need to figure out what the steps are. So I've actually started using Chat GPT to work out what the steps are in automations. So you can ask it questions like, how do I link up my home alarm system with my security cameras? And it will actually tell you a step-by-step instructions of how to do that. So in a recruitment perspective, it would be, how do I get job adder to talk to MailChimp? So if you're not sure on how to do something in terms of the tech, you can actually now find out the answers really easily.
How do I get my children to clean up? Excellent. So for those at home, Tony said the next session will cover that in great depth. So here's an example. I wanted a family lawyer, and I just gave it a little, obviously it's rubbish in, rubbish out. So the amount you give it gives you a better result. So draft a job ad for a family lawyer at a small law firm in Sydney, where the main attraction is flexibility, friendly workplace, and client contact. So the more info you feed it, the better it does. And that took it about 18 seconds to produce that. And that would have saved me a lot of time. Okay. Very simple example.
So before I used ChatGPT, I used to use Jarvis, which got sued by Marvel and now is called Jasper. This is a different AI tool that's purely for copywriting. So it's a little bit different, works slightly differently. You need to be a little bit more nuanced in your approach in terms of the tech. But if you learn how to use it, it can be very, very effective at writing copy or improving copy. So if you've got a job ad that you've used in ChatGPT and you're like, it could do with some improvement, you can load it into something like Jarvis or Jasper and improve it from there.
I'm not a techie. I struggled with it.
So Xero is great, but it doesn't allow you to schedule invoices. So if you want to send out an invoice in 3 weeks, say on a candidate start date, you have to set a diary reminder, remember to do it. You could put some automation in place, or you can use something like Invoice Away, which is a pretty cool tool. It's got a free version if you have one template. So we only have one template for the invoice email, even though the invoices can be different. And you can basically schedule them to go out, auto schedule extra reminders and things like that.
For those taking snaps of the slides, don't bother. We're happy to share it and Tony can distribute them accordingly. Oh, yeah, I found this one. I love it. It's called Komodo. And who is sick of having to tell everybody the same thing over and over again? This is how you log into so-and-so. This is how you do. So now Komodo, which I bought off a site called AppSumo, which is great fun. They have lifetime deals. So now when I want to tell, and this is good for onboarding, when I want to tell people how we set up a job alert or anything in our systems, rather than me doing it step by step or repeating it every single time, I do it once and I press record through a little green icon. It has my gorgeous, handsome face in the corner giving instructions, and it will record step by step as I do the process. And then on the right-hand side, it would actually click, it will create a guide. So somebody can then see the step-by-step, and I'm not writing that, that's just doing that automatically as I'm videoing what I do. So we now save that on our standard operations procedure. So if anyone goes, oh, how do I do this? I just say, look at the video and they can follow it step by step, and it saves you having to repeat everything all over again. Everything we're talking about is fairly reasonable. So I want to say 40 or 50 bucks. Once, not per month. Once.
So we have in our standing operating procedure, if you've not asked Google, don't ask me. But yeah, things like Komodo and training manuals are great to be able to have repetitive tasks. What's next? So this is not a recruitment tool. This is a payment tool. We use this for collecting air miles through Amex for paying vendors. We also recommend to some of our suppliers to pay us with this. It's just a payment platform. So just something to think about in terms of automating payments and managing accounts, which is probably going to lead us onto the next one. No, the signing. This is a really cool tool that Google bought. They've got a free version, DocHub. It just allows you to edit PDFs and sign PDFs really easily. So there's heaps of tools around like this one. For those of you that know me will know that I'm dyslexic. Grammarly basically saved my life and changed the way that I write things. The free version is great. We have it for all of our team. We have the paid version just to make sure that those errors are being minimized. It gives you feedback on the tone of your language that you're using in your emails, and it will give you suggestions of what to say to change it as well. Jason?
Marketers like to get bang for their buck. And the theory is that for every piece of content, you want to have 7 different avenues and channels for it. So Missing Letter is the way for me to recycle blogs. So blogs take a hell of a long time, particularly if you've got research and stuff, although hopefully ChatGPT-3 will make that easier. So if I've got a blog that I like and I whack it on my website, somebody's going to see it once. So I use a product called Missing Letter, and it's spelled Missing Letter with an E missing at the end. Grammarly should have picked that up. And what it does is it creates a newsletter. So it might have, so let's say I'm writing an article on ChatGPT-3, and what will happen is in a month's time, it will send out a post on all my social medias that I pre-set up with my handsome face and a little word bubble that will say, ChatGPT-3 will save the universe, or blah, blah, blah. And then the next month it will choose another quote. So it's basically getting my one article and then repurposing that on intervals of my choice. So instead of the article going out once being viewed at that time, I'm getting to rehash that same article for months and months in a row. And it's either free or $20 or something like that. It's very cheap.
It's not cheap anymore, unfortunately. Both Jason and I managed to get Missing Letter on a one-off deal. I think it's quite expensive now, but it is a pretty good tool for recycling content. I use WiseStamp to create email signatures for our team. So you can create email signatures that have live tweets on them that automatically update. You could put your job board in your email signature or your latest jobs. There's a whole host of different things that you can do with WiseStamp. They have a free version which just has powered by WiseStamp at the bottom, or they've got a paid version as well. No, they've managed to figure out how to avoid that. Jason.
So Refari is a product that James and I use that integrates seamlessly with JobAdder. What we like about it is it provides us with a job board. So it will populate all our jobs from JobAdder automatically onto a job board on our website. And within that job board is some nice functionality. One is a referral program. So if Brendan sends me a candidate, Brendan can actually see as I update the status of that candidate through the process, Brendan gets notified, and at the end, he'll get $1,000 for the placement, and he knows in real time. The other thing it does, it sets up job alerts. So if Brendan wants to know what jobs are going in his area, he can do a keyword search and geographic search, and that will send him an email. And then the other thing that they've added to it is a bit like the product Sourcer. It's a review ratings platform. So automatically when you've made a placement, which it does when you change the status in JobAdder, it will ping the client and the candidate and ask them to give you a star rating out of 5 and the opportunity to write a written testimonial as well. There are other products out there that do that type of thing. What's the one in Melbourne? Recruiter Insider does a bit of that, and Sourcer as well.
Next one's you as well.
Me again? Shortlist. Okay, so I've got a disclaimer. I really like Shortlist and I'm looking at investing in it. So I'll be very transparent about that. Sourcer is a good alternative if you don't want to pay really expensive prices for some of the social media that gives you access to candidates. Without mentioning any names. So I can go in and type in family lawyers and filter it by job title, location, experience, a whole range of things. And what it will do is it will populate with those particular people. And what I like about it is if I want to click on Diane's contact available, it will give me her email and phone number. And I get X number of credits. I think you get 600 credits a month to do that. And I can also tick a box like select all, and I can mass email everyone from within that platform. I'm not using up InMails or anything like that, and it gets sent from the system. So it's a really nice way to bypass the more expensive products, but still get the same result.
Where do people come from?
So they've scoured the internet and they've looked on social media websites, whatever it is, and they've populated that. So they've got a scraper that I think goes through every couple of weeks or whatever. So it's always pretty up to date. Nikki? Yes, it does. Yes. Yeah, I'm happy to show you that offline because this is just a static presentation, but yes, you can do it for people already in your ATS or not in the ATS. So I'm on JobAdder, so I know it does do JobAdder. I'm not sure what other ATSs it does. So, and I've got a code too if you want. So if you want a discount, the code's Jason5 and I'll give you the contact details later through Tony. Yeah, it's always hit and miss. Sorry, how accurate are the phone numbers? It's always a bit hit and miss. Sometimes because it's crawling it from the data that's publicly available, sometimes it will give you company phone numbers, which we won't use that. Unless it's a direct number, maybe, but if it's a switch, we obviously won't. But so far, I've been pretty impressed. And the other thing is they're very responsive. So I go back to them and I say, hey guys, this isn't quite working. And they kind of get their act together pretty quickly. They kind of need the feedback from us. And because they're a smallish company, they're quite nimble. No, they're based out of Indonesia, actually. Yeah. I took my wife to Indonesia for the holidays.
Jakarta.
No, she went of her own accord.
So something that Jason probably doesn't know about Shortlist is some of the development plans that they've got in their pipeline. They're planning on turning their email system into basically similar to Sourcewell, which is what I'm going to talk about in a minute. So it's email outreach on steroids with AI integration to put customized headlines and subject lines in. So if you don't know what that is, I'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, Shortlists are basically looking at really developing.
So it'd be like, dear James, I noticed we both have interest in playing guitar and blah, blah, blah. So it'll be, and the stats say that if you personalize your emails, that like doubles or triples the response rate. Referee, that's yours.
So Jason doesn't like referee.
Not true. I am old school insofar as I like to pick up the phone and do a verbal reference check each time. And I see that as a sales opportunity. So there are many things I want to automate, but because we do lawyers and they're high margin, low volume, it's one of those things that I'm just very happy to pick up the phone and talk to my lawyers. And you'll be surprised how many job briefs I've got from developing a rapport over a ref check.
So that leads on to Referoo is a reference checking tool, but you can use it in one of two ways. The way that we generally use it is we use it to collect referee details, and then we will go and phone the referees, just like Jason, but we don't have to ask the candidates for those details. And then it's all done into the system, creates a nice looking PDF at the end. The other way is you can automate that with sending out referees. So we recruit in tech, and a lot of the time our candidates have worked overseas. So instead of having to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I can send an email out to the referee overseas, and they can then fill in a form. That is then verified through things like IP address tracking. If a candidate tries to fill it in themselves from the same computer, it flags up saying that it's a potentially fraudulent reference check. The SMS feature as well is pretty good, where it will automatically follow up with a candidate and a referee if they've not completed the forms. It also then creates a database of the referees so that you can then go and market to them if they've opted in, which when we do a verbal reference check, they all opt in.
And what sort of response rate are you getting?
So Tony asked what response rate we're getting. For reference checks, we have 100% response rate, because if they've not completed it online, then they get chased on the phone. And because it's all driven by a candidate wants their reference checks to be done.
Just to be clear, we're not pushing particular products here. We're kind of trying to show you what we're using and their categories. So in the reference checking category, there's another one, XREF. There's probably dozens more in each of these categories. So do your own research, but these are just samples that we use so we could talk about them firsthand. I don't know, this one's interesting for me too.
Yeah, so this is something that's brand new. Everybody will have heard of MailChimp. Some people would have heard of ActiveCampaign. ActiveCampaign used to be the CRM and email automation, marketing automation tool that we use. Upticks is kind of like that next generation of product where it pretty much automates everything in terms of a sales funnel. So as long as you've put good content into it and you've got clean data, it will do things like the AI intro lines, where it's customized for each email. This is very much a business generation tool. It's something that I can't give any statistics on yet because it's brand new. But I know that from using customized or bespoke outreach lines in emails, the statistics do go up quite rapidly. And I'm hoping the next one's going to be Sourcewell, which it is.
Before we do that, have you replaced your MailChimp ActiveCampaign?
Yeah, so we're replacing ActiveCampaign with Upticks.
And can it do newsletters as well?
Yep, it can do newsletters. It can do everything that a MailChimp system can do. It's not very expensive either. ActiveCampaign is quite pricey, and Upticks is very cheap in comparison. Sourcewell is not very cheap. Sourcewell is a very, very expensive product. I think it's about $1,400 for 4 licenses per month. It's a UK based company, and it was built as a sourcing tool. So for sourcing candidates. So if you've got a list of candidates that you want to market to, it manages the outreach, but it's full campaigns, full outreach. It doesn't automate LinkedIn, but it augments it. So it doesn't breach LinkedIn's terms of service. So when you've got a LinkedIn step in a campaign, it will load the LinkedIn page with a pop-up box. You copy the text, paste it into the send message, click next, and it will load the next one. So you can go through 100 LinkedIn connection requests in about 20 to 25 minutes. The average response rate that they have on their platform is a 70% open rate, a 38% reply rate, and a 17% interested rate. We're sitting slightly above those statistics with some of the tools that we're using on their recommendation. So even if you don't use the product to its full capability, it's still getting pretty good results. But having a campaign where you get a 70% open rate in mail outs is just insane. So that's all through customization, sending out gifts, the follow-up. It's just getting people to read it. It bypasses spam filters. It bypasses the promotions tab in Gmail. So it goes straight into people's inboxes. I've been pretty impressed with it. We're probably not going to be replacing it for candidate outreach anytime soon, unless there's a better product that comes out. It does also give you credits to uncover email addresses. They're also looking at integrating SMS in Australia, so you can put SMS steps in. Jason, do you want to start talking about this one?
So there's a little bit of overload, hey? There's a lot of products, and it's kind of like everyone just operates in their own little world. Enter Zapier. Zapier allows you to connect system A to system B, and it's a real game changer. So James is a lot smarter than me in many things, including how to use this for automation. But if you want your ATS like Job Adder to talk to MailChimp, if you want to have your Google Sheets that you're collecting information talk to your Xero accounts, it will connect 2 different systems together. James, do you want to give your example of your handwritten?
Yeah, so the next one on here is handwritten, but that's a separate product that we've integrated into Zapier. So the example with Zapier that we have set up for when a placement happens is the placement happens, it sends an email out to the manager. So if it's a member of staff, the email goes to me to say there's a placement.
James is in Job Adder. He changes status to placed. That's all he's doing. The system now does all these steps.
So it sends an email out. It schedules an email for the first day for the candidate to say, how was your first day? It schedules another email for after a week to say, how was your first week? It automatically creates a draft invoice in Xero. After the candidate's been there a week, it sends a handwritten letter to the candidate and to the client saying, thank you for trusting us to do your recruitment, and congratulations on your new role. So it's quite funny when we have clients that we've worked with for a long time and make multiple placements with, and they're getting the same letter. But the system is doing that all on its own without any input. So the complexities of automations are basically the limit of your imagination. So if there's something that you're repetitively doing again and again, that there is a way to automate it. We have a Google form on our website that allows potential clients or clients to go in and put a job order on, where they can put in some very basic information and it will set up a job in Job Adder. So, that's something using a Google form, which is free, using a paid system like Zapier to then go and, create something that is normally quite complex and you'd normally need to be a developer to be able to build. So you don't need to be too technical to be able to work out how to create Zaps. It's more around, if this happens, then do this. So with the example of a placement being made, there has to be checkbacks in there. so that if a candidate bounces and doesn't start, you don't want to be sending them a thank you letter. You don't want to be sending them an email saying, how was your first day? So the system is always going back and referencing job adder on a live case to see if the placement is still in there live. So it's great if the system is kept up to date. If you've got consultants that are not keeping their system up to date and there are placements that are bounced and it still says they're placed, then it can sometimes be a bit embarrassing. The other thing that we've done to make sure that candidates are kept in the loop is when a candidate gets submitted to one of our clients, they get an SMS. So it means that consultants cannot send candidates out to a client without being transparent to that candidate of where their CV is going. And this has been based on feedback from candidates that they absolutely love because they like the level of transparency that we're able to deliver.
What are you using for the SMS?
Like that's coming up. So handy written, just to fill in what that actually is, it's a set of 3D printers in the US that has pens attached to them and physically writes. You can load your own handwriting into it. I did not do that. I used one of their templates. The letters do come from the US, but it's a talking point for clients. That's how I've always seen it. If they're saying, oh, you sent me a letter from the US, were you there on a conference? But you're talking about technology. We recruit in the tech space, so they're interested in what tech we're using. But I find it's opening up conversations that wouldn't normally happen. We're using Burst SMS. These are probably the main two that I would be looking at. Text us, I think, gone through a lot of development changes and is pretty good these days. Both of these integrate with job adder. Jason, are you using a texting service? Why not?
Because I'm 50.
Allsorter is something that we've always talked about, but I actually recently onboarded it. So we use this for creating formatted CVs to send out to clients. So we've actually got it set up with one user. So we have somebody in the Philippines that automatically gets notified when a candidate profile is written by a consultant. So yes, more automation. The person in the Philippines then gets that as an email to say, please, can you create a formatted resume so it's all of our own branding. It takes her about 5 minutes to do. So normally I find with outsourced staff in the Philippines, if you're getting them to do lots of manual tasks, they tend to get a bit bored and don't produce as good results. When you put tools in place like this for them, I've had very good results from making things easier for them.
We just have a macro on Microsoft Word. So when you open a document, it puts our logo, phone number, and a disclaimer down below. Ooh, plugins. So firstly, is everybody on Chrome? Yeah. Phew. Okay. If you want the plugins, Chrome is the way to go. There are a whole lot of really good ones. Most of them seem to be free for whatever reason. But if you want to play around, just type in Chrome extensions and look at the marketplace. There are lots of things that aren't necessarily recruitment related, but will help with your productivity. I've got one that that I've been using that I love. And that's basically, if let's say I want to find somebody with the term family law, for argument's sake, it will go through things and highlight it for me in any document. It doesn't have to be a Word document. It could be a website. So if I'm searching for family lawyers, it will help me do that.
It's called
highlight this. That's the one. Yeah. There you go. All right. Ghostly, I think you know about that one.
Yeah. So Ghostly basically stops unwanted ad tracking. It can be turned on and off really easily. You can basically have a bit more control over what websites are tracking on your behalf. LastPass is a password manager. There are millions of password managers out there. Jason wasn't using a password manager.
There we go.
We set up a password manager and then he phones me up asking me what his master password is. So instead of having millions of passwords or the same password on everything, I definitely recommend using a password manager. Until recently, we used to share a Lucia account and then I cut Jason off. But Lucia used to have a success rate of maybe 40%, and that's changed in the last sort of 6 months. The emails are probably about 80, 85%, and phone numbers are probably about 60% at the moment. So we're having very, very good success with Lucia. It's not a cheap tool to use for the paid version, but you can get 5 free lookups every month per user.
Job adder people, please block your ears. Job adders relationship with LinkedIn has meant that their old people adder system has changed and is now clunky. The way around that is a product called Parsley, as in not the herb, but it passes your CV. So someone's got a dad joke sense of humor in the US who created that, but it allows you to do pretty much what you used to be able to do before people adder changed.
Who has more than 3 tabs open on their computer? So one tab can save you from crashing your machine. You basically click the 1 tab button and it takes all of the tabs that you've got open and puts them into a list. You can then choose to reopen all of them or reopen them one at a time.
My staff for Christmas bought me a mug that says, "My brain has too many tabs open."
And it's the same with extensions and plugins. So if you have too many plugins running at one time on Chrome, it can really cause a problem and make it run slowly. So Extensity is the one that allows you to turn Chrome plugins on and off with just the click of a button.
So the game changer for me out of all of these are the sourcing ones. I find they're the most useful. The other ones are helpful, but being able to find candidates I wouldn't have otherwise been able to find, or I'd have to pay massive license fees for. They're the ones that that help me the most. Tony, do you want to monitor Melbourne and Brisbane and see if there are any questions from there as well as the floor?
We'll go back to them for questions at the end, but I've got a quick one if you don't mind repeating it while asking this. LastPass has been hacked a couple of times. What's your view on them versus Google Chrome's password system, which has never been hacked?
Meh.
That's meaning you prefer LastPass.
I prefer LastPass. If you actually look at the data breaches that they had, it's reported a little bit differently to what actually happened. I wouldn't use the Chrome one. There are better ones out there. There's somebody recommended one to me this morning that I can't remember what it's called. I'll have to email it to you. But that's basically LastPass plus.
So remember, we're talking about categories. So you can go to Google and say, password manager, and it will come up with 50. Choose whichever one's best for yours. Some people want price, some people want efficiency, some people want bells and whistles, whatever it is. Oh, additional tips. Okay. Audit your tools. I was playing around with something and I realized that I was paying $50 a month for a tool I hadn't accessed for 6 months. That's a waste of money. So I regularly check. I find my bank statement's a good way to do that. Something works well now might not be suitable. So people, for example, there are a whole range of great products out there and then they got bought by LinkedIn or Microsoft and for whatever reason, they've cannibalized the product and they no longer work as well. So keep up to date. We talked about LastPass. Double check automations for errors. And James already commented on just making sure you have those checks because you don't want to send a candidate congratulations on your new role when they were sacked 2 days ago. Test and retest. Remember, tools are there to make your life easy. Don't use them for the sake of just using them or being trendy. Work out what works for you. Everyone's got a different work case. And obviously the size of your business is very important because what might be cheap for a one-person shop might be really expensive if there are 20, 30 consultants. Some are per firm, some are per license. And the other thing I'd comment on is look at whether it's a monthly subscription or whether it's what they call a lifetime deal.
And we're always reviewing what we use. ChatGPT is a prime example of that, where we were previously using Jasper and paying for the pro version, which is, I think, $200 a month or something per user. So, that can very quickly add up. And when you've got a product that comes out that's free currently, you'd be silly not to kind of make that switch. But a lot of these tools still have free versions when you downgrade. They always try and lock you in with, you've got this number of credits in your account and keep paying to save your credits. But it's often a false economy when you're just paying to keep the credits and you're never actually using them. I think that's it.
Just a couple of, if you like reading and you're a bit of a nerd like me, Tony's always got good content and webinars and stuff on the Captain's Table. There's an amazing guy from the UK called Hung Lee, who I was fortunate enough to meet last year at a conference in Barcelona. Did I mention I went to a conference in Barcelona? And he's always got great stuff. And every Sunday he puts out a little newsletter called Recruitment Brain Food. Firefish is a software. It's an ATS based out of Scotland. I don't know much about the product, but I do know their blog is awesome. Recruitment Garage, a lady named Belinda Kerr runs training through that. I find her training very good. And in fact, last week she ran a talk on tech tools. So I sat in on that one to make sure I had every updated one to be able to include in our slides today. Recmate, that's Andrew Rogers, good friend of many recruiters. He's Nikki, his wife works with you. Hannah. Oh, there you go. All right. For mat leave. Okay. Anyway, so Andrew's a good guy and he's very into the recruitment technology market. He's like an independent consultant. So he's not pushing product A or product B. He'll just tell you here's what he recommends based on his things. The LinkedIn talent blog, there's some good things there. And also we have the benefit of having the wonderful Rick Mare with us, who runs Shazami, and he's all over tech stuff. So he might be a good person to throw some questions to as well, because he's living in that tech space. Tony?
Okay. So questions. We need to give Brisbane and Melbourne a chance to ask some questions because they've been very politely on mute. And then we can always, we can open it up here to Sydney as well. And the plan is those of you that have got a bit of time to stay a bit longer, we'll have a bit of discussion around technology, what everyone's using, what's working, what's not. We've got a few people in each audience that we can pick brains of and compare some success stories. But that's right. I was in Cafe Sydney, actually. Yeah. So Melbourne, do you want to go first? Adele, you want to unmute and questions from your team?
Yeah, sure. We've unmuted. Can you hear us okay?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Lovely. Does anyone in the I've asked, but just checking if anyone's got a question for Jason or James? No? No. I have a question. What's some recent technology you've cancelled? What's something that you tried and didn't work? I'm interested in anything that you've tried out that might not have been what you expected.
Some of the chatbot tools. So there was one that we were using that was trying to mimic a human to the point where it was live chat, no, not live chat on a website, but a chatbot on a website that was initiated by an SMS and then asking questions that would be what a consultant would ask. And it was too clunky for candidates, and the drop-off rate was about 89% or 90%.
Okay, thank you.
And Jasper.
Thanks.
Okay, Melbourne, think of some more questions in a minute and put your hand up if you need to. Over to Brisbane there, Angela and your team. Questions from everyone?
Any questions, anyone? No.
Have there been any products mentioned that Jason Elias doesn't get a kickback from?
Thanks, Gaz.
That was Dion. That was
Dion. Sorry, I can't see. You guys are very small. Yes, I have no relationship with anybody, commercial relationship, but I am in discussions with Shortlist and looking at a commercial relationship there.
Very good. Okay, thanks for that, Dion. Sydney, any other questions? Some of you that are into tech. Nikki? Can you repeat the question and comment, guys?
So we use JobAdder, and JobAdder has the question was, is anyone using anything that will basically identify job opportunities? I presume to ad chase. So yeah. So JobAdder has a product internally called Value Adder. And what they do is if you have a client within the JobAdder system, it will look out for any ads they place on Seek, the parent company of JobAdder, and say, we've noticed you've worked for these clients before and they've got these following vacancies. And that comes to you via email every day. It's invaluable.
It categorizes it in the email on clients that you've made placements with, clients that you've floated candidates to, clients that you've submitted candidates to but not made placements, and companies that are just in the database. You can customize it on geolocation, job types, so you don't just get every single email if you put Deloitte in your job adder. The other thing that it does is it allows you to add that job straight into job adder with a click of a button.
Yeah, that's very good. Isn't it? I don't do any temps, but I think there's a product called the question was, is there a product that helps with the onboarding of temps? I think there's a product called Onboarder. Is anyone?
We outsource all of our contractors to Encore, but that's white collar contracting, and they do all of the onboarding for the temps.
And that video tool you've got there could be used too.
Excuse me, A positive does that?
The comment was that A positive can do that for you too, which is great.
Okay, what about Web Rover? You guys come across Web Rover? Web Rover, Nikki, you know Web Rover? Can you quickly tell everyone what it does? Because it's quite interesting. Or would you like me to? Okay, she said I can. I feel like a game show host now. So Web Rover, you've got to have a look at. Web Rover is able to gather every single job ad that's in the marketplace at any one time through every single job board, and also from companies' own job sites like, Deloitte or Coles. Not a huge amount. I can't tell you offhand. You'd have to have a look at it. It's not a lot. 30 a month, 12 users. So relative, very low cost. You're told. So for lead generation, it's everything out there, and you can make very, very considered and automatic approaches to clients that might have been advertising a role for a while and say, hey, we can possibly help you here if you haven't had success. We noticed that you've hired this many of that role for a certain period of time, and you can geolocate, you can search on roles, pretty good. So check it out, Web Rover. No, I'd like to though. Yes, I think it's a great idea. Okay. Oh, good. You're back next week. Okay. Brendan. LinkedIn marketing outreach automation tools.
So that breaches LinkedIn's terms of service. Upticks may or may not do that.
We use one called Dripify.
What's it called?
Called Dripify.
Dripify. Can you repeat that?
Dripify.
Just like a list of doesn't break. Don't get
Yeah. So for those in Brisbane and Melbourne, Brendan was just saying that the tool does the automation on a drip feed basis so that you don't get booted off and put in LinkedIn jail. Jason, do you use one?
No.
What about Shortlist?
Oh, yes. That's not within LinkedIn. That's it has some, yeah, but it's separate from LinkedIn. It's a parallel platform.
Just in case you wondered why LinkedIn never comes to present at Captain's Table, they've been asked many, many times and they always refuse. So I just don't know how big their support is of our industry really, but just putting that out there and on the record.
All you need to do is read their prospectus, and the first paragraph tells you what their aim was regarding the recruitment profession. So no secrets there.
Thank you very much. Any more questions? Sydney, Melbourne, put your hands up. Brisbane, Melbourne, if you have any, and we can switch over to you or unmute yourself. We've got one more. Many of us are wrestling with Microsoft versus Google at the moment. Google's really good at email. Microsoft integrates with Office and that whole suite, whereas you got Sheets and whatever with Google. Convince us one way or the other whether to go all Microsoft so everything talks to each other or all Google.
If you have less than 10 staff, use Google. If you have more than 10 staff, use Microsoft. Because the way that they're built and the ecosystems just are easier to scale in Microsoft, and the way that you can customize it and set up security. Google's really, really easy to get started with and good for smaller scale operations.
I use Google for everything except I put CVs on Word documents. We're probably going to change that soon. Why I love Gmail in particular is I could just in the top bit write the term family lawyer in dittos, and it will go through all my emails and CVs as attachments and help me find those people. So you got the power of Google search behind you, which I reckon I've made so many placements from.
And the Word comment from Jason, we don't actually need to use Word because we've got All Sorter, and Job Adder links up with Google Docs so that you can actually edit a Word document inside Job Adder without having to export and re-import. So it just saves a lot of clicks and time.
We're still old school, so we email CVs rather than using Job Adder. Our aim for this year is to move into the 2000s.
I tell you, Job Adder.
So the question is, do we use an integrated phone system? Yeah, I haven't had a hard phone on my desk for years, and we use Zoom. So we use Zoom for meetings and we use Zoom for phone, and it's like having a full PABX. So if somebody rings, it line hunts so anyone can answer it, and you can transfer the call from A to B, and all my staff are remote. So we all just have this sitting on our desktop, and it's fantastic. I don't know what Gong is. Good idea. We haven't used that. What we do use is a product called Crisp, KRISP, which I think is free, and it basically gets rid of all the background sound. So it just makes your calls a lot crisper, hence the name.
Perfect for dogs barking in the background, children screaming. Anyone else? Question.
I don't know, because we just, so the question was Teams versus Zoom. For phones, we're just on Zoom, and it was very easy to have Zoom meetings, Zoom phone. It's all on the same platform for us. I'm sure meetings would be just as good. I just haven't tried it out.
I don't know if Teams has a VoIP integrated system, but we also use Zoom. We looked at Aircall, but the feedback from the market when I did some research was that the cost of Aircall at the time we were looking at it was a bit prohibitive. Zoom's very, very cost effective.
So Aircall integrates brilliantly with Job Adder, and it allows you to do a lot more things, a bit like your Gong. It allows you to sort of track it to do one dial. But yeah, it was a bit expensive for a micro business like ours.
Comes with SMS as well. Okay, final last questions. Can we?
Some of them are some of the individuals have they're a great idea, but then how do you make sure that
Yeah, it's a fantastic question, Cam. The question is whether, so how would you say,
How do you implement tools so that the people in the team actually use them?
Yeah. So most of the time I say, hey guys, I've got a great tool, and my staff collectively roll their eyes. 1 in 5, they'll say, yeah, we might use that, but it's very much me trying to push poo up a pointy hill with a stick a lot of the time, and I end up being the main user. And then when I get success from it, I explain to the guys how I got success. But none of my team are rookies. They're all very experienced, and they've done it their way for a long time. So, there has to be really strong use case. because they're not techies, as to why they should change their current behaviors for it. So I'm now talking to them about ChatGPT, and some of them are saying, oh, wow, that could save me time. So there really has to be a what's in it for me.
We took a slightly different approach to that and made sure that everything can be done inside JobAdder. So with all of these external tools, I didn't want the team to be going outside of JobAdder to be able to use these things. So everything that they do in JobAdder is either integrated through Zapier or one of the staff in the Philippines that is picking stuff up.
Okay, we're gonna finish up soon, and everyone's going to be able to have a bit of a group discussion. But we will cover ChatGPT next month and how it's looking to revolutionise recruitment. We'll take you through all its capabilities and really open up why you need to be looking at it anyway for automation. But a couple of just really quick fire questions for Jason and James, and they're not quite ready for this, I'm sure, but it'd be really good to know which tech tool could your business absolutely not live without?
JobAdder.
JobAdder.
Which tech tool do you think is overpriced and a necessary evil?
The Blue Devil.
LinkedIn.
That's hilarious. Okay, if you were giving an advice to a small growing recruitment company, which there are many in our marketplace, what tech stack would you say is absolutely really important for them to have?
Need to have a solid ATS that integrates into the market. So, something like JobAdder, which has got a good marketplace, is essential.
You're giving him the microphone first, so it sounds like I'm just copying him, but we're actually on the same page with this. You want to have one point of truth, and that's got to be your ATS. So whatever you're using, make sure it integrates with other products. I don't know much about Vincere. I don't know much about Bullhorn. I've been a JobAdder user pretty much since they opened their doors. And it's delivered.
Google or Microsoft?
Google for me.
Google.
Very good. Now, this presentation is particularly good because I've seen the last year's iteration and it's literally changed by more than 50%. So that is the incredible rate of change of technology in the recruitment industry. Final comment from each of you. What do you see in the future? Where is it all heading? What do you think you'll be talking about next year when you do this presentation?
People always think that the recruitment industry is going to be automated to the point where humans are not involved. But when there are humans that are working in companies, there's still going to be humans that are going to be recruiting them.
Exactly what I was going to say. If you want to know why I agree with James, read a book by Katrina Collier called The Robot Proof Recruiter. Nothing is going to substitute the human contact. We make placements of people with other people. Nothing will change that. All the robots will do is help us get rid of some of the lower level stuff. It's still going to be you on a phone to a candidate, selling them an opportunity that will make a difference. So tech is just there to help you, but it's never going to replace the human factor.
And we're talking about that from a specialist recruitment firm perspective, not from blue collar putting 1,000 people into a warehouse. So that just to make sure that definition is there around the speciality side.
Very good. I think we've pretty much covered a lot here. I hope everyone's got some really good ideas from today's presentation. Jason and James, best I've seen from you guys. Thank you very much. Really appreciate all your help. Small gift, just say thank you. This book is recommended by Michael Yarrow, one of our sponsors, and he's been a bit unwell lately for those of you that know him, and we wish him all the best. And he sent me a copy of The Miracle Morning, and it's one that everyone should read. He said it's really inspired him to get through his quite serious illness, and hopefully he's going to come out fighting very soon. And this is a book. Yeah, it's on paper. It's a book. You have to actually read it. Yes, but anyway. So look, thank you both very much. Really appreciate all the efforts you put in. Thank you very much to our venue hosts. We're going to go offline for a bit of networking and internal conversation now. Thanks to Slade Group for hosting us in Melbourne. You can see me. Really appreciate you guys, and hopefully maybe next month as well, while William Buck Melbourne is renovating their offices. Thanks to Angela and the team in Brisbane for hosting the Brisbane group, and JobAdder obviously here. And finally, thanks to to Job Adder, great venue, William Buck, Digit Pro, Airs Group, and also A Positive. Couldn't be putting Captain's Table together at zero cost without the support of all of you. So thank you everyone for coming, and hope you enjoyed Captain's Table, and see you next month.